podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Humans of Speedway. I'm Ian Brannan. I'm very excited to share with you this episode with somebody who has achieved everything there is to achieve, really, in British and World Speedway. He has been the British Under-21 champion, the European Under-21 champion, twice British champion, Premier League Riders champion, overseas champion. He's even been the South African champion, and he's been world champion. One of the legends of British Speedway, certainly a legend of the Bradford Dukes, and somebody that I watched week in, week out, going to Odsal, and he's got so many great stories to share with us, and it's going to be a great hour or so, because he's also going to choose his all-time 1 to 7 and create his own dream meeting as well, and of course not least talk us through that 1992 season where he climbed to the pinnacle of World Speedway. And welcome along then to Humans of Speedway, the first world champion to make the podcast. It is Borough legend Gary Havelock.
Woohoo! First world champion, yay!
I know. Well, Egon Muller was going to do it, and then he's gone quiet. So,
he missed the boat. He snooze, he lose.
Anyway, here you are. So good times. How are you anyway? 2020 has not been the greatest year speedway-wise, I think it's fair to say. But what have you been up to?
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, I obviously got the gig with Paul as sharing the team manager's job with Midlaw. Probably around about Christmas time, and so I thought, well, January and February, I'm just gonna hibernate because it's always cold and miserable up here in January and February. So I thought I'm gonna hibernate, not go out, try not to spend any money, try not to do anything. So I had 2 months of lockdown before everybody else had it, unfortunately. But everything's good. Everything's good. Yeah, still breathing.
And, I mean, you mentioned that job with Poole. Obviously, you would have been looking forward to that. And what sort of plans did you have? I mean, and with Poole as well, there's been the situation with the stadium too. I mean, is there any sort of further update you've heard on what's going on there with regards next year?
No, there's nothing. There's nothing that I've heard any more than what's been put out in the press. I think going back to the job in the first place is when Matt called me. He sort of caught me by off guard. I wasn't expecting him to say what he said by a long shot, and I was like, yeah, and he was like, what? I said, yeah, I'll do it. And he was like, well, I haven't told you all about it. I said, we haven't even talked about money yet. And I was like, don't mind, I don't care, I'll do it. Because to me, it was I've been sat around for a couple of years, twiddling my thumbs, not doing that, and when you see Speedway on the telly from British racing all the way up to GPs, and I watch the Polish league a lot, and I see a lot of people, have got a lot of jobs in Speedway, and I'm sat on the sofa twiddling my thumbs, but that's the way it is. I guess that's the way it was. So for Matt to call me, that was a real boost, because pretty much ironically, Matt could have asked anybody in the country, the world, to be his team manager, and every single person would have jumped at the chance, but he didn't. He called me, and to me it's a massive thing. I've always had a big. Obviously not always, but since I raced, big affinity with Paul. Matt gave him a farewell meeting there, and him and myself and Midlaw and a lot more people down there have kept friends, and it was just really nice for Matt to, Midlaw was coming to a stage of his life with them dropping down into the Premier League where he just couldn't do it all, not all the away ones,
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, ideally, it was perfect, really, because I said, yeah, I said, look, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. In fact, I rang Neil about a few days later and just spoke to him about it because I didn't know what stage he was at or anything. And I just said, look, I don't want to stand on anyone's toes. I said, you do whatever you want to do. I said, and I'll do what's left over.
Yeah. Oh, that
And he
sounds
was
good.
like, yeah, and he was like, nah, yeah, probably, yeah, he'll probably end up like me doing most of the away ones, and he'll do most of the home ones. But I'll get to as many home ones as I can, if I can. And
Yeah.
it'll just be nice. It'll be nice. Hopefully
Yeah.
next year, if it happens, to get back involved.
No, I mean, it'd be great to see you around the sport again as well, and I'm sure everybody would look forward to your involvement for sure. Let's go back to the very start of your career, though. I mean, usually I ask how did you get involved in Speedway, but it's not really a relevant question for you because I think we can all guess how you ended up being in and around Speedway because your dad was a prolific rider first off, and you were probably brought up in the pits, were you?
Not so much in the pits as in the field, really, because my dad didn't actually start Speedway until he was 29.
Really?
Really. He started off by riding trials.
Wow.
And then he went from trials into scrambling, which is now on motocross.
Yeah.
From there, he went to grass track, and then he didn't start Speedway till 29. So, I can never remember his motorbikes, and I think for my dad as well, especially, the fact that he wasn't able to start until such a late age, I guess that, his career as in such was in effect over before he started, if you see what I mean. Whereas with me, he, I think you get the chance to, relive his career that he didn't have, and in a lot of cases when you see that, it doesn't work because you see the son clearly doesn't want to be there, and it's the father who's the driving force behind everything, and that never works. I've seen it in junior racing a lot, and not just in motorbikes either. I guess that's in a lot of sports. The parents try and really through the kids, but with us it was different because that's exactly what I wanted as well.
Yeah.
So although my dad pushed me hard, that was fine because that's what I wanted as well. So like I say, my earliest memory is of seeing my first motorbike. One of my earliest memories, my dad bought me in this shining orange 25cc Italian little pit bike thing called an Ito Jet, and that was my first. I actually learned to ride a motorbike before I learned to ride a push bike without stabilizers. If that makes sense.
That's sort of the way to learn, though, isn't it?
It is. It absolutely is. Well, you look at all sports now. I guess you could call it the Tiger Woods phenomenon. He'd been swinging a club since he was 2 years old, and just by the law of averages, by the time you get to 18, 19, 20, you're going to be freaking good.
Yeah.
Whether you're going to be good enough, that's another point altogether. But you're going to be very good anyway, and I think that's really the way. I don't think you're going to get many top sportsmen who've took up a sport at, say, 14 or something like that, should we say. I think now a lot of it's the ones who were born into certain sports, who are going to rise to the top.
And it is a sport that you were born into. I mean, was there ever any doubt that you would get to the top, or you would be a professional Speedway rider? Was there any other sort of backup plan, or was Speedway always going to be the thing that you were going to be going into?
Oh God, no! I ever since I can remember, like I say, my earliest memories was that I was going to be the world Speedway champion. That was later on in my career. I went to see sports psychologists and people like that, and a lot of the stuff that they're trying to teach the sportsmen is stuff that I was doing on my own as a kid. Like say about visualization. I used to lay in bed every single night, dreaming about being a speed rider and dreaming about being the world champion.
How did that look in your mind when you were dreaming about it? What?
It certainly didn't look like it did when I did it. That is for sure. I guess you try and build up as many scenarios in your head as you can, and like say if you speak to most sportsmen who've got to the very top, they'll say when it happens, I don't know. For me, it was more like a spiritual experience. I wasn't. If you watch me when I go over the line, I wasn't even punching the air. I rode like I did like a lap of the track before. I did my lap of honor, and I was just like had my head down at the handlebars. It was very strange and very nice.
Obviously, we're going to talk more about that a little bit later on, the 1992 season, and of course becoming world champion. But when did it really begin for you on the track, though, in terms of racing? When did you start competing?
I started racing juniors when I was about 7 or 8. So from 3 till about 7, I was just going with my dad and riding around the interval and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Then from about 7, 8, I went into juniors, but there was no junior speedway then, so it was junior grass track.
Yes.
Then I won 2 British championships in that in 1981 and 1982. I think it was 1983. I decided that I didn't want to go up into the last class. There was like 5 classes in the juniors.
Yeah.
Different ages and different bike sizes and that. I didn't want to go into the top class, so I said I just want to get a speedway bike and just go riding in the interval and stuff wherever my dad's racing. So for about the last year, that's what I did, and pretty much when it come to when my birthday is in November, right, 4th of November I'm born, and unfortunately, so coming up to my 16th birthday, 4th of November, that's ended, season's finished. So I would have had to wait all the way through till the next season, which was 1985. So what my dad did, when he applied for my licence from the Speedway Control Board, he put down that my date of birth was the 4th of September, 1968.
Oh, right.
So they gave me a licence in September when I was still only 15. And
oh, wow.
In 1984, at the end of the season, if you look at them, I actually won the Suffolk, let me get this right, was it? Suffolk Junior Open Championship at Mildenhall in 1984 when I was 15 and riding illegally.
Shouldn't say that too loud. I don't want them coming taking world titles off you and stuff.
What they're going to do to me now? I think the house is bolted with that one. Like.
But I think there are stories of other riders doing similar, aren't they? I think it's happened before. Definitely.
Oh God, yeah. And I mean, obviously back then they didn't ask for anything that could, I guess, verify the date of birth.
Yeah.
So I know as I rode on, and when I was applying for like international licenses and stuff like that, I put my date of birth down properly as November. So
yeah.
I don't know when we decided that my birthday had changed, but
probably after your birthday.
Probably, yeah. Probably.
But when it came to the Middlesbrough Tigers, your dad was the team manager there as well, wasn't he?
He was team manager, yeah, and that didn't actually last that long because about halfway through the first season he resigned because of there was a bit of unrest in the team and there was like niggles and like people were saying that I was getting favouritism and that. It wasn't that. It was just the fact that he had a reserve. It was flying and could get double figures. And why would you not give him 6 or 7 rides everywhere you went?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there was a couple of the older guys in the team who thought it was favouritism. So he said, "I'll stick it with your arse and I'm not doing it anymore." And he just came with me then.
It surely can't be favouritism if you're scoring the points. I mean,
no, it clearly wasn't favouritism, but he cut me that. He said that I can't be asked with the sniping and sniding.
Yeah.
So I didn't get on with it.
So that was, 1985 or so?
It was indeed, 1985, yes.
And then what happened then after with regards deciding to go to Bradford? Because were there choices to be made? Or
yeah, there was. Obviously, after we were seriously thinking about going into the top league after 1 year. But, I had a couple of offers and stuff, but, we sat down and thought about it and we thought, just have another year of National League, it was called then. Mm-hmm. 1 more year of National League, and looking back, I'm glad I did. I certainly wouldn't have been ready for the top league then. But at the end of that 1986 season, obviously we had a decision to be made, and one of the main advantages shall we say, was the fact that at the time, nearly all big World Championship events held on the continent and stuff were all on big tracks. And the old Middlesbrough was a small track. It was what you call a technical track, probably about the size of Oxford.
Right. Yeah.
And bumpy. So it was like, if you seriously want to be world champion, you really need to get good at riding fast on big tracks.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, there is actually to ride really fast on a small track, what I call a technical track, Wolverhampton, long straights, tight corners, whatever, is a completely different technique to riding really fast on a big track.
And what would be those differences then to you? So in sort of layman's terms.
In layman's terms, the main differences are that on your small, tight technical tracks, the more you've ridden on them, the more laps you got around there, the better you are, because you can work out what you call the angles. So for them small tracks, a lot of the riders can't turn tight enough to get around, so they're going to drift out. So you go in wider, turn back, you worked out all the angles. Whereas on a big fast track, it's basically just full gas, and usually he who got the biggest balls and who can ride nearest to the fence goes the fastest. And it's basically like the small technical track. It's all about angles, and you don't actually get up to that much of a. I mean, round Wolverhampton, I don't think you'd probably be doing much more than about 55 down the straight at the end of the straight, even there,
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you take it all the way up to long track, where the same engines can be doing over 100 mile an hour. The thing that makes you fast on a small track, your ability to turn the bike tight and make those angles, is the exact opposite on a big fast track. So you come in the corner and you turn really hard, and you've still got 3/4 of the corner to go. So on a bigger fast tracks, it's all about keeping your wheels in line and trying to keep the bike in a straight line and keep it upright as much as you can, and not even to it looks somewhere like Big Gosh, it's a little bit like a Sheffield or Somerset, or Peterborough, short straights, big sweeping bends.
Yeah.
And on them sort of tracks, you don't really ever want to be locked up, because if you're locked up, you're scrubbing speed off. You need to let the bike go. Keep your wheels in line and try and build your speed up. And it is two distinct different techniques.
And so Bradford, obviously, very big track, and also a track that had a lot of international events. Had the 1985 World Final, of course, and the 1990 World Final, and
well, obviously at the time it had only had the 85 one, because we were talking at the end of 86 here.
Mm-hmm.
But it was. We sort of said we should, maybe think about Bradford. It was one of the nearest. Well, it was the nearest one in the top league to be home as well.
Yeah,
it was only an hour away, and we got the deal done and ended up going sign for Bradford.
And how was that at that time, though? Because obviously there'd been the move for Halifax to Bradford, so it was relatively, his new team there, and obviously the aftermath of the Kenny Carter tragedy as well, if we call it that. I mean, did you feel sort of any pressure, taking a spot in that team at that level at that time?
No, not really. My whole career, I never ever felt any extra pressure from anybody that was any higher than the pressure I used to put on myself.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. So it didn't really matter what other people said to me, because in my mind, I was telling myself and trying to, tell myself that I was going to win anyway, like most guys do. You don't turn up there to get 3 points on a night. You turn up to get a maximum, and back to the Eric thing again.
Yeah, well, I was saying that we're going to play some clips from it as we go. But on that, one note I did make was this documentary you did in 1993, while you're racing at Bradford, and sort of following you and a few of the other riders round.
Paul Bentley gets his cock out.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Yeah,
he does.
He thought he'd be one chance for stardom, and that's all people remember him for. That's not all they remember him for, but that is one of the things they remember him for. It takes some guts, that, doesn't it?
Well, it does, yeah. TV, national TV, yeah. I mean, probably pushed it back beyond 9 o'clock as a result. But but at the start of that, you say in this sort of monologue you're doing about why you're in Speedway, and your line was that you don't do it for the money, you do it for the adrenaline, and you do it to win.
Yeah. That was my whole career. There's some riders who you can tell. There's some riders. I'm not mentioning any names, but some riders I've ridden with over the years. It's all been about the money,
Yeah.
Well, for me, it was about the like I say, the adrenaline of actually racing, and also the passion of winning things. Winning is the greatest drug on the planet. You can't. I tell the young lads all the time, you can't. Unless you've done it very much, you can't begin to imagine how amazing it is. And I'm like that with everything. Not just Speedway. I was like that if I was playing cards or darts or anything. You know what I mean? I wanted desperate to win, and yeah. It's a trait of
a champion, though. And I
think so. I think certainly in if I'd have someone ring up and disagree with me about this, but I think I was good at Speedway, probably at the worst time financially in the history of the sport for being good in Speedway, because 5-10 years earlier it was still like sort of late 60s into the 70s. It was still on World of Sport and on a Saturday afternoon, and then when I was really good, there was nothing, no TV, no nothing. To just try and go and get sponsors and stuff, it was just so hard. It was ridiculous. And then, obviously, '99, Sky really became involved in filming British Speedway, and obviously the chance then, obviously you've got much more chance of being able to go out and sell yourself. Obviously when you've got TV time. So yeah, I was unlucky on that point, but then again, I guess I'd rather have been world champion at the worst time than not to have been world champion at all.
Well, that was your time, wasn't it? I mean, you did it regardless of what was thrown at you. I suppose you can always look at it that way. And I mean, what was it like when you first came to Bradford to race? I mean, obviously it was a very big track, a relatively new track in the league, although not a new track in Speedway because it was around in the 1950s and so on. But
no,
it was back, wasn't it?
Yeah. It wasn't too bad actually, because if I'd have been going up to the top league with a really famous established club like a Bellevue or something, I might have been a bit more pressure. But the one and only thing not the one only, but one of the major things I got with riding 10 years at Bradford was that Bradford, unfortunately, it's not a Speedway town. And no matter how much, it just proved in '97, our final year where we did win the league. The crowds were up a little bit, but 1,500 was still the top crowd. Whereas back in the 70s at the old Shea in Halifax, it used to get 7, 8, 10,000 there.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Halifax was a Speedway town. You get them up and down the country. Pool's one, for example, and Halifax was another. And I think a lot of the Halifax fans wouldn't go to watch Bradford just because it was, the next town or the next city over, whatever. And maybe, if you look back, maybe in the 50s and 60s, maybe it's the race each other. I don't know. I'm not a Speedway historian, but no. And the fact that the stadium was so big and vast as well at Odsal, so you could have 1,500 people in there, and it would be like the equivalent of 500 somewhere else, because it held 35,000 people.
Oh, yeah, and the rest.
Yeah, so...
I'm surprised 1,500 was the top crowd at Bradford.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say it would have been the top crowd, but...
It was an average.
I bet if you average, my whole years I was there, I bet we did. I bet there wasn't a year when we averaged many more than 1,500, even the year we won the league in '97.
Yeah, I think that towards the end, apparently, it was because we did one with Neil Machin, and I think he was there on the last day, and he was saying the crowd, I think, on the last day was something like 600.
At Bradford?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But the big thing was that R&M was bullshitting the whole of Speedway by saying, "Oh, we're only closing for like a year, 2 at the most." Um, because they're doing a big refurbishment on the stadium, and then we'll be back. We'll be back. Well, there was never any plans to do a refurbishment of the stadium
Because that was the thing, wasn't it? They when towards the end when it was closing, they were gonna turn it into a superdome.
Yeah,
as it was described.
That's why you would have only had 600 people at the last meeting, because it would have been some make your mouth open meeting.
Yeah.
And it'd have been freezing cold, and everyone would have been going, bollocks, don't go to that. But if they'd have thought that it might have been the last ever Speedway meeting there,
oh yeah, it would have been a lot more popular.
You could have probably put another night on that.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, I mean, I think I went to the '85 World Final. I think that was the first time I went there, because I was still fairly young at the time.
In that program.
Were you?
Yeah, was a picture of me as a 16-year-old junior saying possible future world champion.
No,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah, definitely.
There's some cine film on. Right. I think it's the Yorkshire Film Archive.
Okay.
And it's not like professionally shot, but it's cine film that somebody shot of the '85 World Final.
Oh, right,
and it's incredible.
Really?
Because there's stuff that happened that you would never ever remember, and like they had like a guy who was like a stunt rider.
Okay.
Come out on the centre green, and he goes over on a ramp like Evel Knievel over the top of like a Ford Cortina or something like that. It's just like all this razzmatazz.
Okay,
but it's worth looking at.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, well, it was very hazy for me. I know that there was a lot more going on, but
I was already sat in the crowd like everybody else. But yeah.
I mean, Bradford started off obviously as a new team, but transported over from Halifax. They had a bit of momentum, but it wasn't very long before Bradford started bossing things and were really kind of starting to command the various tournaments and leagues and cups and so on.
Yeah. Well, if you look in, it would have been from about 90.
Yeah.
95, I would say. We won like the knockout cup like three or four times. We were like the Cup Kings. We got to the final like 6 times or something. Won it 4 times, and then we won the Gold Cup twice. So we sort of we established ourselves, I believe, in the early 90s.
Yeah, definitely.
To be fair, we always had a good team. At home, especially. You look at the riders who've been through there, like Calvin Tatum, Simon Wigg, Joe Screen, Jimmy Nilsson, Sean Wilson. Wiggy, I think I said Wiggy already,
Yeah. Paul Thorpe.
Yeah, totally.
Sean Wilson.
Yeah. We always had a good team, and I think I would like to say that the combination of that was winning the league in '97, when it was me, Screening, and Lauren with the heel leaders. The 3 British, they're probably like the 3 of the best British lads at the time, so it was nice to do it that way,
We were a solid team on the track. I mean, off the track, what was the team spirit like? I mean, because obviously that's a huge part of it as well. The bit that you don't see is how the team get on in the pits and in the changing rooms and so on.
You don't win that with a shit team spirit.
Yeah.
And literally, the old saying, one egg can spoil the basket, and it literally can. You can have 6 really good lads in the team who all get along on that, and you only need one rotten apple, and he'll spoil it for everybody. If you're going to win stuff, you need to have a good team spirit.
And so, what are your sort of favourite memories of like particularly riding for Bradford then at that time? I mean, what's the sort of standout matches or races that sort of come to mind? Of that place.
God knows.
You must have loads.
Obviously, riding there 10 years, there was a lot. I never ever won an open meeting there of any type.
Did you not?
No. Even when I won the world final that year, the world semi-final, I had a run off a pair and he fucking passed me on my own track. I was fucking devastated.
Well, there's always that pride, though, isn't there? I suppose that when it's your own track, I suppose you don't want to get beaten.
Yeah. I mean, over the years, with the type of riders we've had there, obviously, you're talking about your long track specialists like Wiggy and Tatum, and then you've got, people like Sean Wilson who went on to be the king of Sheffield, big fast track. And we always wanted a load of grip on there, we always wanted as grippy as we could get it. And for a few years, it was quite wavy down the straights, and it really freaked a lot of the away riders out. They'd come there and they'd see it, and the banking was really steep. Did you ever actually go down on the track?
No, but I know it was banked along a lot of banking. I went down to the fence at the top, so you see how far down it is.
Well, the turns 1 and 2 had quite a bit of banking, but they were like normal banking, so they have, where it cambers off. We call it cambering off, and like most tracks have a bit of banking in. When they get to about the last 2 meters from the fence, the banking levels off. Mm-hmm. And you can't really ride on it. And turn 1 and 2 was like that, but turn 3 and 4 was banked all the way to the bottom of the fence. So literally, you could ride 6 inches from the fence. And if you went, I'll tell you how banked turns 3 and 4 were at Bradford, right? If you walked out on the track in the middle of turn 3 and 4, and stood on the curb, on the inside curb, the bottom of the fence was about 3 foot above your head.
That's quite a way up.
yeah. That was how steep the bank was at Bradford, and like I say, we always wanted it really grippy, and it freaked a lot. It did freak a lot of the away riders out, and they were beaten before they came. We used to make jokes and stuff like that, so it was all good,
Yeah, I know it's been mentioned. I think somebody else mentioned before, like going to Bradford and being sort of defeated before you'd started, just because of the imposing nature of the size of the track and all the rest of it.
Yes, totally, yeah. And then they go for the track walk, and they're digging their foot in, and it's deep as hell, and like, oh God. And it was great because they were beat before I started. Most teams, when it was like that, the away teams come. If they had 2 riders who could ride it, they were doing well. Usually the away teams had one guy who'd have a go, like the number 1, and the others were just, scraping for seconds and thirds. But it was great at times. It was a tear in my eye when that place closed down, because obviously I knew what other people didn't know. And it was a big part of my life.
Talk though of it coming back, though next year. I think. You not reckon?
It's the rugby league version of the BSPA that owns the stadium, and because the Bradford Council gave it to the Bulls for £1 after we left, and then the Bulls then went fucking bust.
Yes,
and the rugby league BSPA people bought the stadium, and I think they are keen to have it. Obviously, if you own a stadium, you'd want it, every night, wouldn't you, if you could? But like I say, as far as Speedway is concerned, without a lot of money, I can't see it. Or without a really shitty track. And bringing somewhere back with a really shitty track. I don't know. If I had to bet, I'd bet that it doesn't happen.
Well, that's the thing, I suppose, isn't it? We want it. We want the same memories as we had, I suppose, and you wouldn't want it to be a half measure. We'll find out in fullness of time, and fingers crossed for it, of course. This is Humans of Speedway. I'm Ian Brannan. Welcome along. My guest in this episode, Bradford Duke legend, world champion in 1992, Gary Havelock, and we're going to be talking about his time at some other clubs like Poole and management with Coventry, and he's also going to choose his all-time 1 to 7 and build his perfect dream Speedway meeting in just a bit as well, so stick around for that. Right now, though, I want to turn our attention to that season, 1992. Obviously, it was a big one. You became world champion, and I know that you've said in other interviews that you feel that in 1992, regardless of how the World Championship was decided, and it was a one-off world final for you, but even if it was a GP or however they decided it, it would probably have come down to between one of 2 riders, you or Per Jonsson in that year. You felt that between you were just a level above everybody else.
Either me or Per, yeah. And I really don't think I'm being saying crazy things by saying that, I top scored in every round I went in. So I either won it or I had a run-off to win it. And I think Per did very similar along his route. And then obviously we came first and second. the World Pairs final, Lonigo. I think I got paid 17, and then Per got about 16. All through the year, we were head and shoulders above the rest, I believe.
And what was the difference in that year? I mean, you got off to a great start, but I mean, was there anything that you'd changed about your sort of setup that year, or were you just sort of fired up for it and just on a winning streak and keeping it going?
I think where it changed massively was obviously going to Bradford and riding with Neil Evans, who was the captain, and he was also did his own engines. So getting to know Neil quite a bit, and then one time he said, "Give me one of your engines, Avi. I'll make it go fast." I'll give the engine to him, and he made it go a lot faster than it had been going. So I was like, "Okay, that's cool." And then we got to the point towards the end of probably was it halfway through the '91 season, went and got some engines from Germany. Because although Neil Evans was I suppose engine tuner, he wasn't really an engine tuner as such. He was an engine servicer, and you still had to buy your engines off somebody. And Neil had been dealing with this old German tuner called Otto Lanti, and we said, "I'll get a couple of engines off him." So I went and got some engines from him. So towards the latter end of '91. The start of '92, obviously, I'd been on these engines for a few months, and everything just clicked into place. I certainly felt during sort of 1990 season all through '91 that I was improving, that I was winning bigger and bigger things. I think the last step was probably getting the engines, buying the engines from Lanti in Germany. And having really, really fast engines, fast tune engines, knowing that nobody else was going on faster engines than me,
Mm-hmm.
Because I was always very confident of my own ability, but sometimes that's not enough. Certainly, more and more in this day and age, I believe that a lot of it's down to the engine. Back in my day, I think a lot of it was still down to the skill of the rider. But you could see the eras coming of the fast engines, the supersonic engines, and the people paid silly money to buy them. But yeah, I don't know.
And you were doing it on an upright as well in that time.
Yeah, well,
pre lay down.
Yeah. So what year was it? '96. Was that the year when we were all in one big league?
Yeah, it was about then, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we were all in one big. No, '95, maybe '95. '95 was when they brought the laydowns in the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
So we were like, but you couldn't ride them in Britain.
Yeah.
So we were like riding all our matches on uprights, and then on a weekend trying to go out to Germany or Sweden or somewhere, try and ride this fucking laydown thing in the Grand Prix. And we had no chance, absolute no chance. And it wasn't until we got introduced into Britain that the lads even started catching up a little bit, But good old BSPA, never worry about young British lads on the world scene, eh? When he was going to come through the gates, more important.
I think Mark Loren was the first person I saw on a laydown at Bradford. I think he was the first one. I think to actually to get one out. And whether he rode, he might have ridden it even after the meeting. Maybe it was in that year. Yeah, maybe it was that year you're talking about.
Maybe he was practicing or something.
Yeah. Maybe he was practicing on the bigger tracks.
He used to go to the track, and if you could get a bit of practice afterwards, so you'd be taking 3 and 4 bikes. So the two that you rode in the fucking meeting, and then the 2 laydowns.
Yeah.
Trying to get some setups and that going within 10 minutes after a meeting somewhere. It was just. It was impossible.
And as you said, you went through that '92 season. You were the British champion, which was you retained the British championship. I did. In that time. I
think I might have won the semi as well.
Overseas champion.
Commonwealth first, Kingsland.
Oh, Commonwealth, yeah.
Yeah, I had a big crash at Big Gosh the weekend before. I was riding the Polish League and broke my hand. The metacarpals, the ones that run from your knuckles to your wrist. Yes. I broke one of them in my left hand and ripped all my shoulder open. And I still managed to joint top score there. And then went out for a run off and it started raining. And I was like, yeah, okay, just let me go, you know what I mean? Played third in that one. Then I won the overseas.
Yeah.
That was when the Yanks come in at Coventry.
Yes, I think I went to that. I think.
Yeah. Then was it one more after the overseas? I think after the overseas, went to the World Semi.
Was it Intercontinental? Was that still a thing?
No, that was years. That was
before. Wasn't it?
Was always the last one before the World Final.
Yeah.
But they changed it to 2 semis. I don't know what year they changed it, but there was certainly 2 semis. One was at Bradford, and one was God knows where, fucking Austria or somewhere, right like that. You know what I mean? One of these fine Speedway backwaters,
somewhere in a forest in Sweden.
Yeah. So let's say I was thankful I got drawn at Bradford.
Yeah, that definitely will have helped. And then, of course, the big one, 1992 World Final, and that was at Wrocław, wasn't it? And obviously, did that help you, the location? Because I would say it's not the same as Bradford, but it's a decent-sized track, isn't it?
I wouldn't say it really helped me or hindered me in a way. You know, obviously, with riding at Bradford on a big track, it was good and that was the whole idea of one of the reasons we went to Bradford in the first place. You know, so if that helped, then yeah, great. But I saw many interviews and that people saying, "Oh, first world final, it'll be great, experience and all that." As you said, didn't it? Your first world final, you go there for experience. And I was like, fuck that, excuse me language. Fuck that. I ain't going for experience. I'm going to win. I've beaten every single one of them riders over several times in the league. So in my mind, there was absolutely no reason whatsoever why I couldn't beat them again.
And there was no guarantee that you'd ever get to another world final. You don't know, do you, at that time?
Absolutely not, no. Like I say, I always dreamed of being world champion. I never dreamed of being the best speed rider ever. Don't know why. All I ever dreamed of was just of being the world champion. I think that probably hindered me for a few years after I won it. Maybe psychologically, sort of thinking, what am I going to do now?
You'd achieved the aim.
Yeah. This dream that had been, the last 20 years of my life had been achieved at such a young age, but. There you go.
And how was it then? I mean, because through the course of that evening, obviously this was back in the days when it was a one-off world final. Everybody starts on zero and stuff, and it could be won and lost in one heat or not.
Well, depending on what happens. It was because my first race I was against Per Jonsson and I won it and he came last.
Well, that certainly makes a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Makes all the difference. And you look back to the fact that Gate 4 was a massive advantage in them early heats there, and I'd been drawn at number 8, which is heat 2, Gate 4. Thank you very much. Another day, another track. It could have been fucking graveyard, and I could have got filled in full of mud like Per did, and end up running the last. But it is what it is. And then it started raining, and it come down thunder and lightning for about fucking half an hour, didn't it? And the track was flooded literally from the curb to about 3/4 of the way out the track was flooded. And I remember Mitch Shearer, a couple of the other riders were running around the pit saying, why don't we just get it cancelled? We'll just get it cancelled. I'll come back tomorrow and start again. And I was like, fuck that.
Damn
I've
right.
already done the hardest bit. It was beating Per, my first ride, as far as I was concerned. My leg was hurting because a bike ran into me. But I was like, nah, let's go. Let's do it. We're racing.
Yeah, race on, and then that heat where it was all confirmed. I mean, what were the emotions? Heat 17.
Yeah,
and you're up against Mitch Shearer in that heat, weren't you? I think.
I don't know. I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I only need the first or second to be certain, and I remember just before going out for the race. I remember nearly being physically sick in my helmet. There was just so much emotions going on with my mechanic. As you see my mechanic's hands shaking like a dog shitting razor blades, and my dad shouting something in one ear and Neil Everett shouting something in the other ear, and I'm thinking, I started spinning. I'm thinking, fucking hell. And I was thinking, I wish you just open that gate. Finally, the gate opened and I pushed off, and then sort of gave myself a proverbial slap around the chops and said, sort yourself out. And I actually think that was the best start I've ever made. In my last ride in the world final, it was off gate 2. It wasn't one of the favourable gates. But when they filmed it from the front. And normally from the front, you can't see when somebody's made a good start. you have to be sort of from the side. But you could even see it from the front. In fact, in this day and age, it was one of them that had probably pulled it back.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Well, at least they didn't. And
No.
you made it a great start. You were definitely first to the first bend, and then you were kind of like long tracking it, weren't you? Sort of down the back straights.
It was really funny, actually, because somebody put something on Facebook the other day, and because of all this talk about the way Smilezik rides his bike and that, and the way he hangs off the back, his arse is over the back wheel, he's trying to get as much traction as possible. And I was thinking, I used to do that. Nobody says now. And then, was it? So it might have even been Peter Walks or somebody like that put something on Facebook apparently over the weekend about he wasn't the first, Harvey was the first sort of thing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
a picture of me at Wroclaw, long tracking it.
Yeah, you're sort of tucked in as as fast as you can go.
Yeah, well, this is like I've got to ride my bike the fastest I've ever ridden it ever.
Yeah.
So every last ounce of straight line speed, whatever, I was going to try and nick it.
And you said about crossing the finish line and sort of not having sort of a massive amount of motion. You weren't punching the air and stuff like that.
I didn't know whether I'd have done a wheelie over the line and punched the air. I didn't do anything. I just rode over the line and then just put my head down on my handlebars and just like trundled round in a complete whirlwind of emotions and feelings and just insane, really insane.
And then you get to lift the trophy and all that. And at what point does it really sink in? Because I imagine it's all like one of these occasions that sort of whizzes by, and it's only like the days afterwards where it sort of you think, "Wow, bloody hell, what have I done?"
Well, I remember I got picked for the drug test as usual, and I remember it was that hot that I must have just sweated like every last bit of liquid out of my body, right? So straight afterwards, they told me about the drug test. So like, I'm drinking water, I'm drinking beer, I'm just trying to get liquid forced into me. Took me about over an hour to do it, didn't it? And then they were like, "You got to come to the press conference.
Mm-hmm.
They've been waiting for you." So I've got took over like the press conference. So I've got my levers tied around my waist in a knot, right? I've got a fag in one hand and a can of lager in the other hand. I walk into the press conference. There's about 150 people in this big room waiting for me. It was, to say it was bizarre was understatement.
I remember that you had like a homecoming thing, didn't you, at Bradford, and you paraded the trophy round and all this sort of stuff as well. That must have been a great moment.
Oh, God, yeah, because I mean, a lot of my fans who'd been with me for 10 years at Bradford didn't actually get to go because it was difficult. It was such a long way back then, and only just come out of communism and stuff. And to bring the trophy home and to parade it around Bradford was special.
Yeah, that was a great day. It was like an extra special meeting. Yeah. I don't think the meeting was sort of inconsequential. I think people were there just to see you with the trophy.
I don't even remember what it was. I remember it was a big trike thing I had to sit on the back of.
Yeah, massive. Yeah. Brilliant achievement. And how did that then change you sort of going forward? I mean, you said it sort of affected you, but did that sort of raise you up in the sport in general, sort of around Europe and what have you?
I don't really think it raised my profile within the sport at all. I'd like to think that I raised the profile of Speedway by all the, all the invitations and stuff I was taking to be in magazines and on TV shows and stuff like this, Yeah. So, although I got absolutely no help whatsoever off British Speedway, I'd like to think that I personally did some good for British Speedway.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. It was a massive moment. And first time without a British world champion for so long as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Which, anybody who's followed my career knows how patriotic I am. And, for me to pull on a Union Jack race jacket, whether it's representing your country or whether it's representing, individually in a big meeting, you're still representing your country, And to me, that was about as good as it got in the sport, when I first rode for England, it was amazing. But when I first time rode for England, when I was captain England, well, to me, it doesn't get any better in sport. If you're a sports person in any sport anywhere in the world, to captain your national side is about as good as it gets for me, and I'll always treasure that.
Was that with our great friend Eric Bucock?
Yeah, some of it was indeed. Yes. Yeah. Him and when I first got brought into the England setup, it was him and Pratty.
Yes.
Who were the team managers, and we had some laughs. We had some laughs all around the world. Remember one time we were going to I don't even know where we were going. We were going to ride abroad somewhere, and it was in Italy, and me and Bowie flew from up north. And Pratty flew from down south, and he was landing like half hour after us, so we landed, organised a hire car and stuff. And then I don't know, I think it was my idea. I just got this big piece of cardboard, right? Went in the shop and brought a black marker pen. I just wrote Pratt in massive letters, and I stood there waiting for Colin to come out. And then. The last official England touring team to go to Australia was us in the winter of 87-88, that winter. We actually went as the official England Lions. We had 7 test matches, and we did some individual meetings and stuff as well. And Eric was the team manager on that, obviously with his connection with his brother Nigel, obviously being and living over there. So yeah, we had some fun on that trip as well. Roscoe turned the car over with the trailer on the back. I'll drive. I'm a lorry driver. I drive for hours, mate. An hour and a half up the road, he turned the car over.
Well, it's a wonder you're here to tell the tale.
But I wasn't in it. Sean Wilson was.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, we were in the other car. Sean Wilson was in that one. He tells the story much better than me.
And Bowie, of course, was involved in Bradford as well. He was team manager at Bradford for a good amount of time.
He was actually for a while. Yeah. Actually, now you've come to mention it. Because
that documentary I was telling you about. I mean, this when we're talking about, I think plenty of people have mentioned about the pressures on Speedway riders, and the biggest pressure is sort of earning your money and all this kind of stuff. And this is the quote that I recall.
Go on.
At the end of the day, you've got a living to earn. If you don't score, you don't earn. And if you don't earn, I suppose you don't eat. And if you don't eat, you die.
Yeah. Speedway summed up in 6 seconds.
That's priceless. Absolutely priceless. Well, see, that wasn't me. I never, ever went to the start line once thinking about money in my life. I don't think. Ever.
Yeah, but in that documentary, though, you did finish second in your first race, and this was his pep talk to you.
Right.
Just about to start there. You ain't got stuffed out wide, covered in shit, couldn't see. And then you can't pass your partner, because he's riding inside, outside, every corner. When they all came out, he just lost 3 bikes stopped you dead, yeah. You can't do a thing, man. Then it's only one ride. Plenty of time, isn't there?
Plenty of time. See them? These riders in this day and age don't know the ball, right? That was Bradford back in the day, right? When the smallest piece of shale was about 10 mil.
Yes.
And there was no dirt deflectors.
No.
That's where men were men, I tell you.
Yeah, I think I saw Hans Nielsen with a dirt deflector, I think, at Bradford. Right. That's the first time I saw one. He was testing them out.
Right, yeah.
Sound about right.
Yeah.
But yeah, the shell used to come flying over because the guys who raked the track at Bradford used to pick the tear-offs or the visors or whatever that had been discarded off, and they'd hand them to the kids at the front.
Oh, really?
Sort of save your eyesight, kids. Here's a ripped off tear-off. It's if you're
on the straights, it's not so bad, but if you're on the corner, you can get sprayed.
Oh yeah.
Go to my local track now, red car, right, and there's just outside the bar on the back of the air fence, so facing the fans, there's a white sign about 12 inches square, and it says, "Caution, flying shale."
No.
Yeah, no fucking shit.
I think I've seen that, actually. I've been down a red car, I've seen that.
The most ridiculous waste of ink ever in your life.
The quirks of Speedway. Now,
absolutely.
with Bradford closing, obviously you had to find other teams. I mean, you rode for some teams on the continent as well, didn't you? You were sort of big in Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, I was always right, as much as I could, right since about 1991, I think.
Yeah.
I started riding abroad in Sweden and Poland and stuff. I've rode. I've rode for 4 or 5 teams in Poland and probably 3 or 4 in Sweden. But probably the most successful would be the period of from '99 to about 2004 in Sweden with Masana.
Yes. Yeah.
And there was myself and Tony Ricardson, Lee Adams. There was a guy called Tony Kasper, a Czech guy who died of a brain tumour since. A young Antonio Limbank when he burst onto the scene at 16. And we had this car of the same team for about 5 years, and we did so well. I think we won something like a gold, 2 silvers, and 3 bronze or something like that in a 5-year period. And when we won the gold in 2000, our home leg was the second leg because they ran like Tuesday, Wednesday. We were away. It was at Rustigana, the home leg.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had about 7,000 people there, right? And then the next night in Arvista, 12,500 people.
Wow, that's a big crowd. Yeah,
biggest crowd they've ever had. And we won the gold, and then we went on a kind of like open top bus around the whole of the town. I think every single person that wasn't at the stadium was out their house cheering and clapping on the streets. It was like being a rock star.
Yeah, I was going to say
bonkers.
Rock star stuff. Yeah,
yeah, it was bonkers, but like really good fun and some good friendships formed. You know, I'm still really good friends with Tony.
Yeah,
Cardson. So yeah, it's all good.
And for British teams, you spent a good deal of time racing. Well, you raced at Eastbourne, Peterborough.
Well, I did. Yeah, after Poole shot, I went to Eastbourne. That didn't really work out. They sacked me, and then I went to Poole in about August of that year of '98, and then that was when Matt was the team sponsor at Poole. He had a company called Hair Arena, hairdressing salons. So they were, when I went to Poole in 1998, they were the Poole Hair Arena Pirates. And it was in that winter when Matt Ford and Mike Golding bought the club from, I forget the guy's name, I had it before. But because I remember I got friendly with Matt because he was the team sponsor. So all through the winter, we were talking on the phone and he was saying, I said, "Mate, there's a chance to get me up by the Speedway. What do you think?" I went, "Mate, don't even think about it." Anybody who puts their own hard-earned money into a Speedway club at this current time is bonkers. And thankfully, he ignored everything I said. And I guess otherwise, the Poole legacy that's happened since him and Midlow came in might not have happened.
Yeah, it worked out for the best in the end, though, didn't it? So,
it certainly did, yes.
All good there.
It certainly did, but, there's a lot of promoters could take a leaf out of Matt's book, Matt makes it his number one concern, To me, it just seems like a lot of Speedway riders have successful businesses, other businesses, and they run Speedway, or, God forbid, a tax loss, or whatever you want to call it, and Speedway isn't their number one, It's just if it goes good, it's all right. But with Matt, he works hard and he makes it happen, and he gets the right people around him to make things happen, and that's why they've been so successful. And also he's loyal. Midlow. Look how long Midlow's. When Matt took over in 1999, he installed Midlow as a team manager, and he's been there ever since.
Yeah, it's been a great partnership, hasn't it, between them all?
Yeah.
And hopefully you can get involved in that next season. Fingers crossed.
Yes. Well, Matt asked me, are you still interested to do the same? And I was like, yeah, 100%. So, we might be able to put another string in my bow as another manager. Yeah,
and you've done some managing, haven't you, with Coventry and
and Berwick
and Berwick,
and obviously with Neil being the England team manager as well, and. You know, with me riding for Poole, we've been from all the way up north. You know, I used to stop over at Neil's quite a lot, so we got really friendly with Neil, and Neil's a star, man. He really is, and you know, he did a fabulous job as England team manager, and he does a great job as Poole team manager. You know, but Matt's the guy who picks the teams. Midler has no input whatsoever in the team building. Midler just turns up on press day and goes, right, these are the guys I'm working with, let's get it on. Which is amazing when you think about it.
It is really. This is Humans of Speedway. I'm Ian Brannan. My guest in this episode, a Great Britain Speedway legend of the Bradford Dukes, the Poole Pirates, many others as well, and not least Redcar, of course, too. Gary Havelock is my guest, and he's going to be choosing his all-time dream meeting still to come before the end of this. We need to pay a bit of attention, though, to the end of your racing career, though, Gary, because it happened in a way that you wouldn't have expected or indeed would have liked with an accident where you were hit by a bike and that caused an injury that left you without use of your left hand. And talk us through that and what you had to go through, because that was obviously not the way that you would have liked your career to have ended on the track.
No, certainly not, no. It was bad. It was bad. It's really bad. There's nothing good I can say about it. Without going into too much gory detail, the whole thing was really bad. We crashed, and I spent a couple of days in my local hospital. Then they transferred me down to Leeds. And then I had a couple of operations, and basically my left hand doesn't work. I went back in 2015 because my surgeon said there was this other thing they could do, get me elbow working, and blah 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 blah. We're going to take some muscle out my thigh and put it in there, and then some nerves out my ribs, from in between my ribs, and do this Frankenstein shit. So I was like, all right then. It got to 2015, and I wasn't getting any improvement. I was like, right, let's try it. So I done that, and then that was supposed to have been one operation, 4 days in hospital, and that turned into 4 operations, a month in hospital, and nearly dying of sepsis.
God.
Yeah,
it's not what you want,
and all for nothing, because what they put in had gone all bad, and they had to take it back out anyway. So I'm at the position I'm at now. I'm still in constant pain. My pain just depends on what level it is, you know. Just on a random, to try and explain to people, if you put your pain on a 0 to 10 basis, 0 being no pain at all, and 10 being the worst pain ever. Right up until about 6 or 7, I can normally all right. I can function. I can do stuff. I can get on with it. If it gets above there, then I can't do stuff anymore. I just have to try and concentrate on taking a lot of painkillers and you know, getting right. But it is what it is. Unfortunately, it happened, and it's happened. And would I change it? If I had to change everything, I don't know. It's a very good question.
Yeah, it's one of those. You know, unfortunately, it's the cards you dealt. But
It is. Yeah, I mean, we all know the risk. You know, when we sling our legs over these 500cc single cylinder methanol burning death machines that slide around the corners for other people's entertainment. We all know the risks, and you know, although it would have been really nice to get out in one piece, at least I've got out. And I'm still walking and talking, and I see my kids every day, and I can still drive and do this and that and the other. And, you know, I really feel for... And the other thing, I think, at least I managed to have my career before I got injured.
Yeah.
I always think of Dazzy Ward, God bless him, you know. I had so much to come, you know. He was going to be multiple times world champion. And now he's in a wheelchair. That's the sad side of Speedway, unfortunately. But I guess you can't get one without the other.
Yeah, it's sad when it happens. It's definitely sad when it happens.
Yeah, I mean, my accident. You probably watched. A lot of people probably watched the G. Not the GP. I wasn't the GP. It was Polish League. It was Polish League just after the GP, and you know, with the Woofy crash.
Yes. Oh, yeah. The Niels Christian Nielsen. Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was pretty much identical to my crash. Come in the corner, somebody right on my chuffer, back wheel just let go. I did a 180, fell off, and the guy behind me rode straight over the top of me.
Yeah. Nothing they can do.
Yeah, and he was saying he's a bit battered and bruised and that, but he gets up, walks away. Oh, I don't. And that's just millimetres. I guess I always say if it was a couple of inches one way, I might have just got away with a broken collarbone. If it was a couple of inches the other way, I might have broken my fucking neck.
Yeah.
And being a quadriplegic, quadriplegic.
Yeah.
God bless.
Same for Niels as well, I suppose. He's badly bruised and all that, and I think he's got up,
and his arms and legs would still work.
Yeah, but maybe if he had the same crash again on another day, it might not have gone that way.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
It's one of the things. It's almost identical type crash. I know 2 different tracks and all that, but he gets up and I don't.
Yeah.
They always used to say when I first started, they always used to say the worst crashes always seemed to be apparently when Alan Wilkinson got paralysed. Apparently that was an out of a crash.
Yeah, the simplest ones, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen one or two, and like you say, the spectacular crashes are never usually that.
Get up,
yeah. I'm always worried when someone slides off quietly and then doesn't get up after it.
Yeah.
So
that was the other thing. You get these riders. I know they do it now, obviously, so their bike can get back to the pits and get fixed and all that. But me and Sean Wilson, we always had our friends or family of some form with us.
Yeah.
So to us, if we crashed, first thing you do is you crash, like move my head, move my arms, move my legs. Oh yeah, I can move everything.
Yeah.
You get up.
Yeah.
So that whoever it is, your family, even if your dad in the pits or your mum in the stands or your girlfriend or whoever, sees he's all right.
Yeah.
Well, you get some other riders who are they've grazed a little toenail and they stay on the track for 10 frigging minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a big ordeal, but hey ho, which is life.
This is Humans of Speedway. That is Gary Havelock. I'm Ian Brannan, and we move to the section now, Gary, of Humans of Speedway that we do in every episode. And if you're listening to this one for the first time, then check out all the other previous episodes, because I've asked the same questions to all the people that we've had on in the previous about designing your dream Speedway meeting. If you could have the dream lineup, dream team riding for you, the dream opposition in the perfect stadium with the perfect referee, with the perfect track, how would it look? And those are the questions we're about to ask. And we're going to start by asking Gary, which track would you have your dream meeting on? Not taking into account any of the facilities, just purely the shale. Where are we racing on?
Bradford.
Well, you've ridden it enough times.
Yeah.
Just because of what's the attraction of it? Just because you ride fast
because it was a big track. It was also a wide track. Speed riders like wide tracks, tracks that are really wide. If you get into trouble, you've got a bit of chance to get out of it. It was a wide track. It was a fast track. It was banked. In my eyes, all speed tracks should be banked at least a little bit. And. It was the best pits. It had the best changing rooms. It was, it was.
You just had to watch out for Paul Bentley walking around in them.
That's it.
Yeah. The stadium then that you'd put that track in. I mean, would it stay in Bradford, or would you have that stadium with other surroundings?
Be nice to think you could put it in Wrocław.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's do that.
What was the atmosphere like that night with from the crowd from that point of view?
Oh, it was phenomenal. Yeah, it was phenomenal. I mean, although the majority of them were Polish, there was quite a large contingency of English guys. You certainly knew where they were. They had flags and everything. But I'm not sure how many was there. I think it was 45,000, something like that.
Wow, it's a decent crowd.
Very good crowd. And I mean, when you look back to the days of PC and Ireland, I think they rode like in Poland when it was 100,000 people.
Yeah.
In some tracks,
it's massive,
mind blowing. Yeah.
It's time to move on to the Javi all-time dream team. Then the 1 to 7. Any rider, alive or not, no points limits. It's just a free for all. Your all-time 1 to 7. Who's going to be number 1?
Per Jonsson.
Yeah. Well, you and he had a lot of great battles.
We did, and we never really knew. We never even really knew each other before Per got injured. And about after he got injured, and it seeped out how bad he was, and that I was like, oh shit. And I actually wrote him a letter. It was obviously back in the day. There was no phones or internet or text or anything like that. But I got his address off somebody and wrote him a letter, and apparently he really cherished it, like, you know.
Oh, that's really nice.
He just said that, I know we were never friends, but we've never met, and, you know, blah, 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 and anyway, whatever, but what an amazing rider.
Yeah.
That guy probably kept his wheels in line better than anybody I can ever remember.
He was fast, wasn't he?
And
very fast rider.
You know what I said earlier in the thing? Wheels in line equals speed.
And I don't know if you saw, but they were marking the world final, the 1990 world final in Bradford.
Right.
The sort of anniversary of it.
Okay.
The other, I think it was a month or two ago, and they
it would have been normally the end of August.
Yeah, and they named a bus Per Jonsson.
Oh, wicked! Awesome. Did anybody ever take a picture of it and let him know?
I think someone did, yeah.
Oh,
and there's another one called Eric Gunderson as well for the '85 World Final.
Yeah.
Look out for those. Okay, who else we got then?
I don't think any 1-7 in the world could ever be right without having this guy in it, Tony Ricardson.
What a rider!
Again, a guy that I rode against for several years before actually really knowing him.
Yeah.
It was only when I and it was actually by accident. Me and Lee Richardson that year, '99, we signed for Linköping, a team in the Premier League. And that year, each track in that league had like an adult track in the Elite League.
Okay.
If you like. So, and it just so happened that Linköping's parent track was Basana. So they got in touch with me and said, "Oh, would you fancy coming and ride for us?" And blah blah. I didn't really know much about them, to be honest. I didn't really know who rode for them or anything. So I went up there and rode for them. And like you say, I stayed about 5 years. Got to know the guys really well, and got some lifelong friends out of it.
Brilliant. Okay, so Tony Ricardson's on there. We're doing well with the Swedes so far.
We are, aren't we?
Who's next?
Right, who's next is Lee Richardson.
Of course, yeah, and we know what happened with Lee at the end. Of course, something that we've sort of previously.
Really bittersweet because it happened at Wroclaw.
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah.
But no, mate. I first got to know Lee when he came to Bradford in '99. And he was a real raw then, you know. He'd been riding for Reading, and John Davis had got him together, and this, that, and the other. And it was actually one of these meetings we were riding on a Thursday night in Linköping in the Swedish Premier League, and Lee had asked me if he'd qualified for the World Under-21 final at Voyant, and he'd asked me if I had anything on. And I was like, no, I haven't got any meetings or anything. And they said, "Has any chance you'd come with me?" So I was like, well, let me make some calls and that. And I was like, yeah. So we got a lift from Sweden to Denmark, and his mechanics turned up with the van and all that. And he won it. He won the World Under-21 Championship. And I didn't even know this till years later when I was talking to his missus. And I remember now when we first got there, we said, "Oh, let's go have a look at the track." As we were walking towards to look at the track, I just picked up this round, there was all pebbles and stuff around where the standing area and stuff. And I see this round pebbly thing, so I thought I'd pick it up. And we got out of the track, and I made up some bullshit about it being the lucky stone.
Yeah.
And I gave it to Lee, and obviously won the World Under-21 Championship. So he kept this fucking lucky stone, for the rest of his life, and his kids have got it now, apparently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really touched me when I heard the story. It was like, oh man. And that's some really good times with Lee. And again, Speedway, as amazingly rewarding as it can be, it can also be devastatingly cruel.
Yeah.
Devastatingly cruel.
It was a huge shock, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, terrible incident, and very hard for everybody.
Yes.
Okay, so Lee Richardson is in your all-time 1-7. Where
next one, unfortunately, is going to have to be foreign again.
Okay.
Well, it's going to have to be Greg Hancock.
Well, you can't go wrong. I mean, Greg rode in your farewell meeting, didn't he?
He did, and you know what, right? When he agreed to do that farewell meeting, right, when I was organising, getting a bike to ride and all that, and he went, Avi, do us a favour, don't give me number out to anybody. But I went, mate, I don't give anybody's number out to anybody. But he said, every man and his dog's trying to get me to do the testimonial and this open meeting or whatever. And he says, fuck that. He says, I want to fly in, do your meeting, and fly back out. He said, but whatever happens, mate, I'll be there. And that was amazing. Like, some of the things, like, when it pissed down, I think it was about heat 6, it absolutely hiked down for about 10 minutes. Like, they had to stop the race and it rained that heavy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was in the bath, I like raced down the pits and that, and we got all the riders together and everything, and I was like, look, lads, it's up to you. The rain had stopped by now. I said, obviously, it's to be fucking farewell, mate, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I will completely understand if you don't want to ride, you know. I've ended up fucking injured for the rest of my life. I said, don't want to see any of you. Every single one of them lads went, nah, fuck it, we'll race. We'll ride.
Oh, wow. That's dedication.
It was amazing, yeah. It really was amazing. So, and a man who's won the World Championship 4 times, and at the age of, was it 46? Greg Hancock's done things that I don't think any sportsman in any sport will ever do again.
Yeah. Yeah, well, 46, and he was racing beyond that, wasn't he? Even
oh God, he raced beyond that. Yeah,
yeah.
It was actually, you know, all right. People will. You'll always get one freak who participates till late in any sport, but not to be the fucking world champion.
Yeah, I know. He was just getting better and better, wasn't he?
Yeah, amazing.
Okay, so Greg is in.
And then obviously, if Greg's in, this next guy has to be in. It was Maciej Janowski.
Yes. Yeah, he's sort of a little protege, isn't he?
Greg's little protege. Yeah. There's a reason why he's in there, and it's not because of his speedway. Unfortunately, I can't tell you this reason because he promised me not to tell anybody.
Right. Okay.
So he's in there because he is one of the most amazing fucking human beings that I've ever met. Basically.
All right, so that's 5 in your all-time team. 2 more spaces left. Where are we going next then for the final 2?
Okay, I'll fill the rest up with some Brits.
Go on then.
It's going to be hard this though because I've got like 4 Brits for 2 places.
You have to have a race off.
Right. I'm going to put my mate in, Andrew Silver.
Yeah.
Again, a guy who before we met we actually disliked each other. And that was just from reading stuff about each other and hearing stuff on the grapevine. When we actually met, we realised we were really good friends, and we've been friends ever since. And he's going through a particularly tough time at the moment, so that's why he's in. One of the most underrated riders ever, you know, and to retire so young as he did and walk away was just like, I don't know. At the time, you think it's a waste of talent, but you know. Looking at me now and Lee Adams and Golub and people like that, like maybe he did the fucking right thing, you know?
Yeah.
But hey-ho.
Hey-ho. And last one then?
Last one, going to have to be Mark, innit? Mark Lorham. World champion.
Yeah, another Bradford teammate of yours.
Yes.
Yeah.
And another guy I've known from junior grass track, probably met when we were, probably when I was a teenager and he was 10 or 11, I would have thought.
Wow, it's a long time.
Yeah. We've been friends ever since as well. All the lads who grew up on the grass of our generation pretty much are all still mates. Stoney, Screeny, me, Mark, Chris Louis. Gosh, there's probably loads more as well. I can think about Sean Wilson, Paul Thorpe. Well, we're not mates with him anymore, but hey.
Right.
Yeah, well, there was a big load of us who grew up at the same time now.
Yeah, grass track was a big scene, wasn't it? I know a lot of
there
riders came through that.
was no junior speedway then, you know, which was a bit of a bummer really when you think about it, because we did one speedway meeting a year, and that was on Bellevue Hyde Road, and I used to look forward to it so much because it was like going from a bumpy horrible field to this speedway track, which was like a billiard table. Yeah. There wasn't a ripple on it. It was just amazing. I was like, fuck grass track, I want to be a speed rider.
Mind made up.
Yep.
Okay, so that's your 1 to 7, an awesome team there. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that.
No.
Best referee then, or your favourite referee, if there is one?
Of the current of the current crop, the only one is Dave Robinson.
Dave Robinson.
Yeah. Of the older brigade, Paul Ackroyd was a good ref. He did my testimonial at Bradford for me, and we've been friends ever since. And funnily enough, I actually used to have no problem at all with the one everybody hated. What was he called? He was dead strict.
Frank
Ebden.
Yeah.
See, I had no problem with Frank Ebden because Frank was like, the rules are, you don't roll at the start. If you roll at the start, you'll get a 1, and then if you keep rolling at the start, you'll get a fucking fine. See, that was great to me with Frank. Rules were the rules, and you know where he stood. It was only the people who were trying to get cheated. I never had a problem with Frank because I used to sit still at the start. It was the rollers that used to have a problem with Frank. He used to get the fucking rollers, you know what I mean? But rules were, you're not supposed to roll, so why not?
Yeah, when I did the one with Shane Parker, he said that Frank Ebden would definitely not be refereeing his. I think he had a problem with because he got through the meeting so quick.
Everybody had a problem with Frank. But like I say, I never had a problem with Frank because most of the time he was always down south. And the fact that he got the meetings over quick, that was all right because we had so fucking far to go home. You know what I mean? We didn't mind that.
If you were going to change one rule, what would it be?
God.
Anyway.
I would install myself as Speedway Tsar and solve all the fucking problems.
Speedway Czar Gary Havelock is in command of the sport. That's great. That's a good way of looking at it because you get to change lots of rules with just the one there. So
absolutely.
Great. And if we're going to pick one team, any team from all time to race against your All-Star 1 to 7, what would that be? Which team? Which year?
Oh God, I'd have to say the England touring team, the last England touring team that went to Australia. All those lads. We beat the Aussies 5-2, 5 test matches to 2, and it should have been 6-1 because they cheated in the first one. So, I put that team.
Wow.
England Lions.
The England Lions as the opposition at Bradford, with the Roslav facilities.
That's it.
I'm sure it'd be a great meeting. Well, thanks very much, Gary, for taking the time and speaking to us. It's been great. And
no problem, Ian. I hope the people enjoy my tales. They were all the good ones that I could repeat. You'll have to do an after 9 o'clock one someday.
We'll have to do one in.
Did you see that one they did with the comedians where they got them drunk? I'll tell you what, like ex-speeder riders get them drunk, you'd get some absolute crackers.
Maybe one for future. I'll get the lawyers on standby. Look, Gary Havelock, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and thanks for joining us on this episode of Humans of Speedway.
No problem. You take care.
My thanks to Gary Havelock for joining us on this episode of Humans of Speedway. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed chatting to him. It was sort of a bit of a fanboy experience, really, for me. But it was great chatting with Gary, and hopefully we'll see him back around the tracks next season in his new role as being sort of assistant manager for Poole. Don't forget, if you're new to Humans of Speedway, well, first of all, welcome along. We have plenty other episodes for you to check out. In fact, there are 11 by my reckoning. We've got chats with Phil Morris, the race director for the Speedway Grand Prix and Speedway of Nations series. How about a trip inside the referees box with Chris Durno, talking about what they get up to. Shane Parker, Peter Oakes, Neil Machin, Nigel Pearson, Scott Nichols, among some of the names that you can check out chats with in our series. And if you want to get in touch, then please do as well. You can drop us a line through social media. On Facebook, you just search for Humans of Speedway, and we're on Twitter at Speedway Humans is the place to go. Follow us there to get preview clips and find out all the news of upcoming episodes and stuff like that first. Of course, if you have enjoyed it, the best thing that you can do is just tell your friends who are also Speedway fans as well, if they might enjoy it. Spread the word, maybe give us a rating and a review too, wherever you get your podcast. That would also be amazing, and we'll speak to you next time on the next edition of Humans of Speedway.
Social Podcast Network.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/get100 and use code GET100. That's code GET100 at prizepicks.com/get100 for a first deposit matchup to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.